Hello everyone, my name is Seth, and today I'm going to give you my review of Until Dawn. So we are continuing the spooky season reviews with Until Dawn. It was a film that came out earlier in the year. I missed it when it came out, mostly because it wasn't really a priority for me. It was something I wanted to see, but it wasn't like number one priority to get around to watching because I loved the game. I played through it so many times. So you can just imagine my disappointment whenever a lot of the information started to come out about this film and how basically it wasn't really going to have anything to do with the game. So I was willing to give this movie a shot, but I was also willing and ready to hate this movie. But to my surprise, I actually enjoyed it. But before we go any farther, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. We're trying to get up to 400 subscribers, so share this video around with any friends or family. It could help the channel grow, and it would absolutely make my day. So first things first, I do have to say, even though this film surprised me, even though I don't hate this film like I thought I was going to, still I guess I will have to say that it is Until Dawn just about in name only, I believe. There's only one character from the game that is in the film. They have the same name, but honestly, it is kind of like in name and actor only, because in reality, these two characters aren't really the same. And if you both play the game and watch the film, you'll know what I mean. So to be honest, that part of this film was disappointing. I think one of the things that kind of makes the game great is the characters. It really is kind of leaning into like the 80s kind of slasher, especially there at the beginning, and you have some of the stereotypical characters, but they execute on those stereotypical characters very well, and they kind of subvert some expectations throughout the game. And so that's what I really like. I feel like if this film were to go in a different direction and follow the game, kind of like at all, it would have been something similar, maybe not quite as comedic, but something similar to like a Cabin in the Woods. So first, I didn't think it was a good idea for them to make an Until Dawn movie based off the nature of the game. Secondly, I thought something relatively similar to like a Cabin in the Woods would have been a good choice to go with, and they kind of chose neither of those options. I do understand though, if you were to try to tell one of the branching path stories, you could upset some fans because that's not the path that they went on. If you wanted to get some of the actors back, that would have proven to be a little bit difficult, because someone like Rami Malek at this point probably would have been pretty difficult to get back for a horror film remake of a video game he did like about 10 years ago, especially with some of the accolades that he has received over the last few years. But still, I kind of feel like maybe try to stick closer to the game if you're going to give it the game's title. There are some elements here that I will say are similar to the game, and I do appreciate that. And even though I do enjoy the movie, this kind of sounds like me hating on it, but I just have to say, it almost feels like they just wrote a script and then by accident it has a couple of plot points here and there that could be relatively similar to the game, or that could kind of fit the game. And then to potentially boost the box office, they did a few rewrites, make it fit a little bit better, at least with the game, and then slap the game's title on it to have more of a brand recognition. So with all that kind of being said, they go with a kind of time loop thing here where they have to survive until dawn. If not, they have this time loop, and then if they don't escape it, they become a part of the loop as like a creature or a monster or something. And I do think that the time loop idea is a fun and interesting idea. It kind of plays to a video gamey type thing of playing the game and dying and trying that bit over again. And I like how in the film, each time they reset, they kind of keep somewhat of an injury from the last death. So the effects of the deaths start kind of building up. I will say, the issue with that kind of mechanic in the film is if you're trying to relay it back to the game, that retrying thing does kind of make sense in most video games, but this game, the story kind of goes forward. If a character dies, the story keeps going forward. The only way to kind of change that is to actually kind of go back to a previous save and reset entirely. So I get what they were going for there, but I think one thing that's just so cool about the game is how you can play it many times and all the characters can die or all the characters can live. It's up to your choices. And there is one line in the film about wanting everybody to live, and that kind of made me think of that. So it kind of has the spirit of the game just a little bit, like sort of, kind of, not really, yes, no. It's a little bit muddy waters there, but still, it's a good idea. And they use that opportunity in this film to kind of try their hand at a couple of different genres of horror. We go from like a slasher to more of like a supernatural Conjuring style, and then maybe we shift and we have kind of like a creature horror film. There's a couple times where we get like a found footage or like a body horror kind of thing. So that's actually really, really cool. I think that's a great use of the whole resetting thing. And they do try to have a few elements from the game here and there that you would recognize, so I do at least appreciate that. There's definitely a couple of references toward the end of the film where when you see it, if you played the game, you're like, oh, yep, I know exactly what we're doing. I know exactly where we are. This is incredibly familiar. And by the end of the film, I will at least give them credit that they do something that does differentiate this film from the game. So I kind of get what they're going for. And if you've seen the film, I think that kind of makes sense. But some of the elements from the game that they keep that really work is like the killer's mask. The design is basically the same, and that design is so good. So yeah, absolutely keep it. One thing they do in the film that they do in the game is that this film is very brutal. They don't shy away from any of the gore or violence, and it's that way in the game as well. And in this film, it looks like they used a good, like almost perfect mix of practical and CGI. The practical effects look really, really good, and CGI is not overused at all. It's just used as a tool to help enhance the practical effects. And I think something like that is like the perfect blend of the two. But if you are looking for a gory horror film this Halloween season, this is a pretty good one. And honestly, the makeup that they have on the actors and creatures is honestly kind of fantastic. That was something that kind of caught me off guard. It's just a little detail that I think I really appreciate. And that's just a little detail that I wasn't expecting from this film, but it's something that adds to the enjoyment. And the film is pretty creepy too. I wouldn't necessarily call this a scary film, but there are a few scenes here and there, a few shots that kind of gave me some chills. One thing about this film I do appreciate a lot is that we don't really waste any time getting into the story. Like, we're into the main story like 10 minutes into the film. Like, seriously, 10 minutes in, we're already starting to get some creepy stuff. And it's starting to raise some questions. And I think the pacing of this film is honestly really great. I think it could have become very repetitive with them in the same location, repeating every time they died. But it all moves along at the right pace. You're not lingering on any try for too long. You're not just rushing through a bunch of stuff. And like I said earlier, they get creative with the different kinds of horror that they try to tackle. The film does kind of fly by during the first two acts, and I think that's in no way a bad thing. That's just because it flows really well. I think there's a few times in the third act where it kind of gets bogged down a little bit. There's a few sequences that just kind of like clutter things up a bit. But honestly, I think the writing is pretty solid in this. In a film like this, the dialogue is something that could have just kind of been forgotten about, and it should be like whatever, like bad dialogue. There's been plenty of movies where I've watched relatively recently where I'm like, people just don't talk like that. But the dialogue all seemed natural, and I believed that these people were friends. And there's a few lines here or there that kind of made me chuckle. And they do a pretty good job of having little details kind of thrown in there that comes back later in the film, and you kind of can pick up on that. And they're pretty subtle with it, which I do like. I think one of the biggest complaints I think I have with this film is that we don't really dig into the characters. Characters are really, really something that push the story forward. You can get connected to characters, really make you care. That's where the emotional depth comes from. And I understand we're dealing with an emotional subject about a girl missing her sister, but like I don't really ever feel it. All the characters, they all kind of have like their thing, if that makes sense. And we know the character relationships, but it's more so kind of told to us instead of shown to us. And really, we just get kind of surface level with all of these characters. It's enough to make the story work, at least, but the characters aren't really anything special. They're not memorable. Another complaint I did have kind of toward the end is that like there's one point where they try to explain some things about how things work. And I think they honestly kind of over explain some things and it doesn't necessarily make sense, but that's not something that they necessarily lingered too long on. So it's kind of forgivable a little bit. I think this whole film honestly was just solidly directed by David F. Sandberg. You'll probably recognize him from like the Shazam movies or Lights Out or Annabelle Creation. I think he's a solid director and he just brings that here. You can just tell by watching this film that this was done by a competent director. All the cinematography and editing were solid too. This could easily be a film that was just cut to bits in the editing room, and it wasn't. They try a couple of unique transitions and camera movements. Peter Stormare plays Dr. Hill in this. He is reprising that role from the game, although like I said earlier, not really the same character, but he kind of gives the same or similar performance, which is very good. It's over the top, but it's fun. It's definitely entertaining and you enjoy every second he's on screen. And then everybody else in the cast just does a really solid job. There's not really any big standouts here, but they all did a good job and they all played their roles well. So overall, I think that Until Dawn was a massive surprise for me. Like I said, I was ready to hate this film. I thought this film would be terrible, but it wasn't. I thought it was very solid all around, very solid to good all around. I enjoyed it and I had fun with it. It's not perfect. It's not an amazing movie, but there's just so much that this film does that's just so good and so solid. It's just a fun time. So if you're looking for a horror film that I think is just fun to watch during this Halloween season, I would recommend giving Until Dawn a try, and I did not think I would be saying this at the end of this review. I'm giving Until Dawn a very solid 3.5 out of 5. But that's it. That's my review of Until Dawn. Have you seen this film? Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. Have you played the game? Have you seen the film? Let me know what you think, how they kind of compare. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. You can follow me on social media pretty much anywhere at CinemaSeth, and I'll see you next time.